It's 2032. A J-36 takes off from a base in Fujian province. Roughly the same moment, an F-47 launches from Kadena. Neither aircraft is trying to find the other. Both are trying to stay alive long enough to change the war. On paper, this looks like the next great dogfight. The jet replacing the F-22 against China's answer to NGAD. Stealth against stealth. Missiles against missiles. Tailless jets in a duel over the Taiwan Strait. It isn't that fight, because these aircraft almost never see each other. They're not the shooters. They're the command nodes. Around them, drones, sensors, satellites, data links. A web of systems that can kill you before the aircraft carrying them ever comes into view. This isn't pilot versus pilot. It isn't even jet versus jet. It's network versus network. And once you see it that way, this entire matchup looks different, because the question isn't which aircraft wins the dogfight. It's which system survives long enough to decide the war. But before we talk about systems, let's talk about the aircraft at the center of them, because most people look at a tailless jet and assume it's a fighter. These aren't fighters. First, the J-36. Built by Chengdu Aircraft Corporation, first public flight, December 26, 2024. That date isn't an accident. It's Mao Zedong's birthday. China wanted the world to see this aircraft. Nicknamed the Ginkgo leaf for its diamond delta shape, roughly 75 feet long, around 110,000 pounds. That's significantly heavier than the J-20, closer in size and mission to an F-111 or Su-34 than to a traditional fighter. The cockpit confirms it, side-by-side two-seater, a layout you put on strike aircraft, not dogfighters. 3 engines, 3 internal weapons bays, built to carry a lot and carry it far. This isn't a jet designed to win a turning fight. It's a long-range penetrator, and it isn't alone. Shenyang is running a parallel program. The J-50, smaller, likely carrier-capable. China isn't building just one 6th-generation aircraft. It's building 2. Now the F-47. Boeing won the contract in March 2025. It replaces the F-22. The Air Force wants 185 of them. Combat radius over 1,000 nautical miles. Top speed above Mach 2. First flight targeted for 2028. Initial operational capability by 2029. Also tailless. Also stealthy. Also enormous. Powered by Pratt & Whitney's XA-103, an adaptive cycle engine that switches modes mid-flight. But the F-47 isn't the weapon. It's the conductor. Built to orchestrate drones, sensors, and missiles from inside contested airspace. Neither of these is a dogfighter. And that's not a limitation. That's the point. So both aircraft are tailless. Both are stealthy. Both sacrifice classical agility for something else. That's where the shallow comparison usually ends. One is Chinese, one is American. Pick a side. But the interesting differences aren't nationality, they're priorities. Start with the J-36. Its design leans into volume. A deep fuselage, a massive diamond delta wing, 3 internal weapons bays. Every design choice protects one thing: payload. The ability to carry a lot of missiles, a lot of fuel, and a lot of sensors, deep into contested airspace. The second prototype made this even clearer. It added 2-dimensional thrust vectoring nozzles, redesigned inlets, new landing gear. China isn't just building one airframe, it's iterating in public, and the direction of iteration tells you what they care about: range, payload, and just enough maneuverability to survive if it gets caught. Now the F-47, most details are classified, but the profile we can see tells a story. Extreme range, adaptive propulsion, a dorsal refueling receptacle visible in leaked imagery, suggesting missions measured in thousands of miles, not hundreds. The F-47 isn't optimized to carry the most. It's optimized to command the most. And here's where most comparisons get it wrong. This isn't centralized China versus distributed America. Both sides are building distributed systems. The real difference is what the manned aircraft does inside the network. The J-36 looks like a heavy shooter, a flying magazine with sensors. The F-47 looks like a quarterback, fewer weapons on board, more control over everything around it. Same architecture, different job titles, 3 engines. That's the single strangest feature of the J-36. Almost no modern combat aircraft uses 3 engines. The design trade-offs are ugly. More weight, more complexity, more things that can break. So why did China do it? Two plausible answers. Probably both are true. The first is the boring one. A 110,000-pound airframe needs thrust. 3 engines give you the margin to fly high, fly fast, and fly far, even with full internal fuel and a heavy weapons load. The second answer is more interesting. Modern combat aircraft are power-hungry in a way older jets never were. Active electronic warfare, advanced radar, directed energy weapons someday, onboard computing to control drones. All of that runs on electricity, generated by the engines. A third engine isn't just thrust, it's a power margin for everything the aircraft has to do besides fly. Now the F-47. One propulsion story. Very different philosophy. The XA-103 from Pratt & Whitney. An adaptive cycle engine, meaning it changes modes mid-flight. A third airflow stream opens for efficient long-range cruise, closes for high-thrust combat bursts, same engine, 2 personalities. You can think of the split like this. China solved the problem with more engines. America solved it with smarter engines. One adds hardware, the other adds software. Both answers are valid. The question is, which one ages better over the next 20 years? Here's what most comparisons leave out. These aircraft aren't fighting in a vacuum. They're fighting over a specific piece of water, the Taiwan Strait. And the geography of that fight isn't symmetric, not even close. China fights from interior lines. Fujian province to Taiwan is about 100 miles. The J-36 doesn't need to be a global range platform. It needs to loiter close to home, carry a lot, and strike at range from airspace it already controls. Now look at the American side. Kadena Air Base on Okinawa is 400 miles from the strait. Guam is 1,700 miles. The continental United States might as well be on the moon. Every American fighter in this fight has to cross enormous distance, refuel mid-air, operate in contested airspace, and make it home. That alone changes everything. And it gets worse. China's DF-26 ballistic missile has the range to hit Guam from mainland China. It's nicknamed the Guam Express. And this isn't a paper capability. In the Taklamakan Desert, satellite imagery has shown full-scale mock-ups of American aircraft carriers and Arleigh Burke destroyers, some mounted on rails so they can simulate moving targets. They've been practicing against these for years. In 2020, a DF-26 reportedly struck a moving vessel at sea during an exercise near the Paracel Islands. That wasn't a test, that was a message. Kadena is within reach of shorter range systems and has limited hardened shelter capacity. If those forward bases get suppressed in the opening hours of a war, every American aircraft in the theater is operating from farther away. Tankers become the center of gravity. If you can't refuel, you can't fight. That's why the F-47's combat radius, over 1,000 nautical miles, matters more than its top speed. And it's why CCAs are essential. You can't send enough manned fighters that far, fast enough, to matter on day one. The J-36 extends China's reach outward. The F-47 is the American answer to having no place close to hide. Range isn't a speck on a chart. It's whether your pilots get home alive. The shortage is what drives the drone story. If you can't send enough manned fighters across the Pacific to fight on day one, you need something else. Enter the CCA program, Collaborative Combat Aircraft. Autonomous wingmen designed to fly alongside manned fighters, carry weapons, absorb risk, and die affordably. The US is farther along here than most people realize. 2 airframes are currently flying. The first is the YFQ-42A Dark Merlin from General Atomics. V-tail, single engine, internal weapons bay. First flight August 2025. It crashed on takeoff April 6th of this year at a test facility in California. No injuries. Program paused. The second is the YFQ-44A Fury from Anduril. First flight October 2025. Just 556 days from contract to airborne. Last month, Fury entered serial production at Anduril's Arsenal 1 factory in Ohio. 3 months ahead of schedule. That matters. The US hasn't put a new combat aircraft into production this quickly in decades. Increment 1 targets a fleet of over 100 airframes. The total goal across all increments is more than 1,000. Unit cost target, $25 to $30 million each. General Atomics says its version may come in at under 20, about 1/10 the cost of an F-47. and Increment 2 is already forming. Northrop's YFQ-48A Talon Blue, Lockheed's Vectis, Shield AI's X-Bat. Stealthier, more capable, more expensive. China's drone story is real, but less visible. Swarming concepts, loyal wingman designs, and an industrial base that can build fast. That's the wild card. But here's the reframe. You're not comparing J-36 against F-47. You're comparing J-36 plus a drone swarm against F-47 plus 4 to 6 CCAs. The manned platform is the expensive part. The drones are the mass. The F-47 isn't the weapon. The formation is the weapon. Which brings us to the hardest question in this entire matchup. Not who has better technology, who can actually build it. Right now, China has two 6th-generation aircraft flying prototypes, the J-36 from Chengdu, the J-50 from Shenyang. Two parallel programs, multiple airframes, visible iteration. The United States has 0 F-47s in the air. First flight isn't expected until 2028. That's a real gap, and it gets more uncomfortable. The second J-36 prototype appeared in October, about 10 months after the first, with redesigned inlets, new landing gear, and two-dimensional thrust vectoring. That's not polish. That's a different airframe. China is iterating in public at a pace the U.S. acquisition system has not matched in a generation. But here's the counterweight. Prototyping is not production. Flying an airframe is not fielding a fleet. The U.S. has a mature stealth supplier base, combat-coded 5th-generation fighters in the hundreds, a tanker fleet that makes the platform usable at Pacific range, and a CCA program already in serial production. China has none of that operational depth. Yet. The real question isn't who reaches first flight first. It's who fields a combat-credible force first. Can China turn its prototype speed into fleet-scale production? Can the U.S. acquisition system move fast enough to matter before 2030? Both answers are uncertain. Boeing's stealth track record is thinner than Lockheed's or Northrop's. Some analysts are already skeptical of the 2028 first flight. China's industrial base is fast, but untested under sanctions pressure. Speed builds prototypes. Industrial base wins wars. Here's the part that gets left out of almost every 6th-gen comparison. None of this matters without missiles, and the missile fight is already shaping the aircraft. Start with the Chinese side, the PL-15. Already in service. Beyond visual range, estimated 200-plus kilometer class. Credible threat to any Western fighter. Then the PL-17. Longer, bigger. Range estimates push past 400 kilometers. It isn't built to kill fighters. It's built to kill the aircraft that keep fighters alive, tankers, AWACS, intelligence platforms. If the PL-17 works as advertised, it shoves American air refueling back past the ranges where fighters can reach the fight and return. The J-36's internal bays reportedly carry up to 8 of them. Now the American answer, the AIM-260J ATM, Joint Advanced Tactical Missile, replacing the AIM-120AM RAAM after 3 decades of service. Longer range, designed specifically for the Pacific problem, already in testing, fielding imminent, and both sides are pushing into air-launched hypersonics and standoff strike. The J-36's 3 internal bays don't just carry air-to-air missiles. They carry enough volume for anti-ship weapons, hypersonic glide vehicles, long-range cruise missiles. That's part of why it looks more like a penetrating strike aircraft than a fighter. The whole 6th-gen conversation changes once you look at what's inside the bays. The aircraft is just the truck. The missile is the war. Here's why the missile doesn't always matter. A missile is useless if you can't see the target, or if your data link gets jammed, or if your GPS gets spoofed, or if your sensor gets blinded before you ever get a lock. The decisive fight in 6th-generation air combat isn't in the merge. It's in the electromagnetic spectrum. Both sides know this. The US has a head start on open mission systems architecture, standards that let sensors, shooters, and drones share data across platforms and services. China's efforts are less visible, but they're real and rapidly maturing. If you can break the opponent's kill chain, you don't need to outfly them. You don't need to outshoot them. They just never get the shot off, and the same argument runs in reverse. Whoever sees first, shoots first. 6th-generation aircraft are being built around sensor fusion, taking radar, infrared, signals intelligence, and drone-mounted sensors, and stitching them into a single picture. In the 5th generation fight, the pilot found the target. In the 6th generation fight, the target is already on the pilot's display before they even ask for it. This is where CCA attritability becomes strategic. If an electronic warfare drone gets killed probing enemy defenses, you lost $25 million. Not a pilot, not a $300 million aircraft. And both sides share one enormous vulnerability. Kill chains depend on space, satellites, data links, GPS. Whoever blinds the other's space assets first changes the math of every other fight happening below them. So what does this war actually look like? Not the dogfight most people imagine. Picture it instead like this. It's 2032 again. The fight starts before anyone sees anything. Chinese satellites get blinded or spoofed. American data links start dropping in and out. Submarine cables in the Western Pacific are cut. Then the waves begin. CCAs launch from forward bases. They probe Chinese air defenses, absorb missiles, feed targeting data back to the formation. Some of them don't come home. That was always the plan. J-36s loiter over the Taiwan Strait, carrying 8 PL-17s apiece. They don't come looking for American fighters. They wait for tankers, for AWACS, for anything that makes the American combat formation work. F-47s operate 500 miles back, orchestrating the fight through satellite links and relays. The pilots rarely see the enemy. They see what the network sees. Runways at Kadena are cratered within the opening hours. Guam is under missile threat. Tankers reroute or die. Most of the combat is happening through the electromagnetic spectrum, across thousands of miles, between machines that never lay eyes on each other. The pilots are still there, but they're not fighter pilots in the old sense anymore. They're battle managers. And the first 6th generation combat loss probably won't even be a dogfight kill. It'll be a platform caught on the ground, or a missile that arrived from somewhere the pilot never saw. Go back to where we started. 2 aircraft took off, one from Fujian, one from Kadena. Neither one ever found the other. One of them came home, and the reason it survived wasn't better stealth, or a faster missile, or a more maneuverable airframe. It was the network behind it. Data links that held up, drones that absorbed the losses, sensors that saw first, satellites that kept talking when the other sides went dark. The pilots never saw the fight. They commanded it. This isn't the next fighter competition. It's the beginning of a completely different kind of war. So here's the question I want to put to you. What should we break down next? The F-22 and F-35 in this new architecture. Do they still matter? The PL-17 and how it rewrites the Pacific tanker problem, or the CCA drones themselves, how they're actually built and what they can really do. Drop it in the comments. You're in the war room. Subscribe for the next briefing.